If you want to level up your database skills and ready yourself for the job market, then buckle your seatbelt because at Tech Media, simplify and break down the hard concepts and give you tips and tricks to help you become a database expert in Microsoft SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, and Oracle database. Welcome to today's Ultimate Microsoft SQL Server Crash Course tutorial, where we get you started from a novice to an expert. We cover topics such as SQL Server installation, database operations, aggregate functions, SQL Server operators, and database administration. All that and much more coming up right now. Welcome back, and let's go ahead now and begin the installation. So we're going to be installing Microsoft SQL Server 2014, 64-bit, and Windows 10. So I'm using Windows 10 Pro. Let's go ahead and run our setup. So the window will disappear for a few seconds and then pop up again. So Microsoft SQL Server is a relational database management system. This means that records are stored in tables that have relationships. You might find, for example, we have a customers table, we have orders table, and the orders table has a customer ID. So meaning each order has is related to a customer. So that's how relational tables work. So let's continue with our installation. We use the first option, new SQL Server standalone installation, or add features to an existing installation. If you want to upgrade from a previous version to SQL Server 2014, then you can use the last option. So let's go with the first option because we are doing a new SQL Server standalone installation. Again, it's going to disappear and then pop up again. You can minimize this one. Let's wait for it to come back. So if you have a serial key, I think mine is an enterprise edition, so I'm going to apply a standard edition key. I have my serial here. I'm going to apply this standard edition. Okay. So click next. Accept the terms and terms of license. Click next. So checking a few rules of installation. I don't need updates, so I'm going just to click next. It's doing a couple of checks on the install setup files, and then going to enable our buttons again once the checking process is complete. So for this tutorial, I'm not going to install the SQL Server Management Studio with this setup because I would want to install the latest version of the SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm going to skip the management tools when selecting the features. I would want to explore the latest version of the studio. Setup roles, we're going to go with the default SQL Server feature installation. Click next. So feature selection window here. I'm going to select all the features apart from the management tools. So we select that. Sorry, my machine seems to be misbehaving, but let's still continue. So I'll select the management tools and then click next. The installation path, I'm going to leave it as default. So click next. So the instance configuration, you're going to leave it as default to the MS SQL Server. If you want, you can give it a name, but I prefer leaving it as a default. Click next. So next is the server configuration. So these ones I'm going to leave them as they are. I'm not going to change anything. Just click next. So database engine configuration, this is where we specify how we're going to be logging in into Microsoft SQL Server. So we have the Windows authentication mode and we have the mixed mode. So we go with the mixed mode so that we're able to log in with both the SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication. So let's provide our system administrator password here. This is the password we shall be using to log in when you are logging in as a system administrator. Then add the current user who is also a Windows administrator account. So this one picks the current logged in user. So proceed to use the multi-dimensional and data mining mode. Add the current user. Then click next. Reporting services native mode will install and configure. Then this one will leave it as install only. So just click next. So distributed replay controller, we access permissions, we give it the administrator again. The currently logged in administrator, click next. Distributed replay client, just click next. Not going to change anything there. So these are a summary of all the options we've been able to choose from the beginning, and just go through them to confirm that everything is okay. The features selected are alright. If you have anything that you need to change, you can always go back. Click the back button. Well, just go ahead and click install. This is going to take quite some time, so we're gonna pause the video and resume when it's done. Let's check if everything has succeeded. That's good. So all the components have succeeded in installing. Let's close this one and also close this other window. So let's now install our management studio. I've already downloaded it and just go ahead and run the setup. So always run as an administrator so that you have all the privileges to run your setups. Let's wait for it to pop up. So we leave the default installation location, which is a program file x86 by default. So we leave it as that and just click install. As you can see, this is one of the latest versions, 18.9.2. It has the management studio with the Azure data studio. So let's go ahead and install. So it's loading packages. So these are also going to take quite a while. So let's give it time to complete, and then we resume the video once it's complete. Guys, so our SQL Server Management Studio is done with the installation, and it's prompting us to restart. So we'll go ahead and restart our computer. Welcome back, guys. We've already restarted our PC. Let's go ahead and search for the studio, the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio version 18. So I'm going to pin it in my taskbar for easy accessibility. So let's go ahead and fire it up. We're going to be starting with a few management tasks. That is creating databases, tables, how to delete tables, and databases also, how to restore and backup, and how to schedule backups before we start on writing scripts and queries in Microsoft SQL Server. So let's it's open now. Let's log in. So starting from here, always ensure that the database engine is selected, and then here you enter your either your server name, where Microsoft SQL Server is hosted or it's installed. So it can be the computer name or the server name, or you can still use a dot like that to mean localhost if you are logged in the computer that is hosting the SQL server. So this one should be able to log in. Okay. So you can still use the localhost IP address is 127.0.0.1. So this one should also be able to log in. Right. You can see right there localhost. Still be able to log in. All those terminologies mean the same thing. That is the local server. So once you are logged in, we have these two buttons here. One is to connect, the other one is to disconnect. So if I disconnect, I'm out of the server. If I connect again, it brings up this pop-up to be able to connect. During connection, you can we have these two main options. We have the Windows authentication and the SQL Server authentication. During the installation, you remember we had these two options. We have used excuse me, mixed mode authentication. So here we can decide to log in with the password that we entered during installation, which is the username was SA, which is system administrator, and the password. So still we are now logged in as a system administrator. As you can see here, right? We have several menus here. We have the databases, we have security, we have server objects, we have replication, always on high availability, we have management and integration services, we have the SQL server agent, and then the event X event profiler. So this is a beginner's tutorial, and I'm going to touch on the basics, and then we'll have an advanced tutorial for Microsoft SQL Server, where we'll cover even the most advanced concepts. Right. So starting, let's start with the databases. So here we've already have some databases that I've already imported. I'll go ahead and drop them first of all. This is how we drop databases. Okay, just right click and delete. It will bring this pop-up. You can close off existing connections so that you're able to delete it safely. So I'll also delete the Northwind, close connections, then delete. So first of all, let's try and create a new database. We'll create a new. So we have this pop-up window. What we do now is put a name. We can call it Northwind. Northwind database. The owner, you can select the system administrator, but it's not a must to do this one. So just enter the name first of all, and then here we have the files that will be created. These are the data file and the log file. The first one is usually the primary file, which is this one. Okay, and then the second one is the log file, as it's named here. So if you go to the last, the path field, it shows you where the files will be stored, and you can always change this location if you wish to save in a different location. Right. So for this, for creating database, just enter the name, and that will be it for now. Go ahead and click OK. So another database will be created right there. Okay, so if you want to drop it again, we can go ahead and delete. So that's how we create and delete databases. So let's go ahead and now restore an existing database. We already have the backup, so let's go ahead and restore. So you right click databases and click on restore database. So restore database, and then a pop-up window should appear. Select device here, then click these three dots here, then add. Then let's select now browse where your backup files are located. So we have it here. So Microsoft SQL Server usually backs up its files using a .bak extension. So always look out for this one when looking for your backups. So we'll restore the AdventureWorks 2014 database. So click OK. So it's already selected. Click OK. So the other thing maybe we can include is to overwrite any existing database, just in case there's another database that has the same name. It's going to be overwritten. Okay. So again, under files, we still have the same window that we had before. We expand this one. You have the data file and the log file. We go to the end. We have restore as. So this is where the files will be. Our files will be saved. That is the MDF file, the master data file, and the log data file. Okay. If you want to locate them, you can check this button here, and then select data file folder, log file folder. Ideally, both files are usually placed in the same location because they go together. Let's go ahead and click OK, and then the restore process is running up here. You can see the progress 100%. Then AdventureWorks restores successfully. So click OK, and we have our database here. Okay. Right. So suppose we want now to attach. We already have now the MDF files and LDF files. That is the master data file and the log data file. So in my storage here, If I can open my directory here, I have this folder here, Northwind. Okay, let me get the file. Database example. Northwind is on here. So in my case, I only have the master data file. I've copied on my external hard drive. So I only have the. If you right click and go to properties, this is a master data file. Okay, the primary data file. It's also called the master data file. So I only have this one, I don't have the log file. So let me show you how you restore. You can attach it without the log data file. SQL Server should be able to create the log file. So you go to right click databases and attach, and add button here. Search for. Okay, let me select drive F. I have my MDF file here. There. Click OK. So as you can see down here again, original file name, we have the MDF and LDF. The log data file does not exist in our directory. So we try to restore it, to attach it as it is, we get an error. Okay, if we copy this error and paste it in our notepad, just saying an error occurred when attaching databases. Okay, so we just say OK and then scroll to this hyperlink at the end here. So the message, this one should give us a more detailed message of the error. So attach database failed for server localhost. An exception occurred while executing a Transact-SQL statement or batch. Unable to open the physical file f northwind_log.ldf operating system error. The system cannot find the file specified. So you can see the error is clear that the log file cannot be found within our operating system. So what we're going to do is to remove this log file, but we only have the master data file. So under what SQL will do intelligently is to recreate the log file and be able to attach the database. So I just click OK, and that should be able to work. There we have our Northwind database. So we go back to the master data now, where we had the MDF. You can see now a new file has been created, which is a log file. If you right click and go to properties, you find that it's an LDF file, and that is a transaction log file. So this one only stores logs, like events that are happening within the database. And again, as I said earlier, that both files are usually saved in the same location within the operating system. Right. So suppose we now want to do a backup of our Northwind database, assuming we have done transactions, and now we want to do a backup of it so that we can save it in different drives probably, or even upload it to the cloud. So what we're gonna do now is right click and go to task, and then click backup. Okay, so that the backup. So what you need to select now is a backup. Default database will be selected, which is Northwind. You can always change here if you want to backup a different one. And then the backup type is a full, not a differential. So we'll do a full backup. Here we have the database. So what we're going to do, it already has given us a default folder where usually Microsoft SQL Server backs up databases. So we're going to remove this one and add our own directory. So just click this button here, and then let's select where we want to save our backup. I can replace this one with F. Okay, just select F. Okay, I can select Northwind. Let's give it a name as Northwind back. backups, then remember what we said, you have to include the .bak extension, because you can see here backup files .bak, so we use .bak extension. Let's go ahead and click OK, so we have our file there. Let's just go ahead and click OK to do our backup. So it's showing progress down here, executing 100%, and then it shows here it's successful. The backup of database not wind completed successfully. So click OK, and the window disappears. So we go back to our directory now and refresh, and now the window should find our backup there, which is .bak, and as you can see the file type is BAK file. Okay, so that's how we do backups within Microsoft SQL Server. So the other option usually we do is using the maintenance plans. Using the maintenance plans, we can be able to schedule our backups to run automatic. I've already done a video on that, and you can check the link above and be able to go through that, how we use the management plans to perform the backups, right? So when doing backups scheduling, what you usually do is under maintenance, under management, you come to maintenance plan, right click, maintenance plan wizard. We have an error here, and I'm going to show you how we are going to sort this out. Agent XPS component is turned off. So this one basically means that usually anything automated or scheduled within Microsoft SQL Server is usually run by a service called the SQL Server Agent. So if you check here, it shows an X here, meaning it is disabled. If again you go to services, you can even start it from there, go to services.msc. Services.msc and check the SQL Server Agent, right? So when you select it, you can check the status around here. And as you can see, it is when it indicates start, it means the service is not running. And as you can see, the status here is not running. The others are running. So let's go ahead and start our SQL Server Agent service, so that we're able to now schedule our backups. So let's go back and maybe refresh our server. So now it shows green and it's started, right? So back to our management and maintenance plans. Currently there is none. So just right click maintenance, let's go to the maintenance plan wizard. So this wizard will take you step by step how to schedule your backups. And let's go ahead. So we can call this one Nodwind. Can call it Nodwind. Sorry. Routine backups. And call it like that. Same description. So run as SQL Server Agent Service account. So under this one, we're going to, you can either separate the files. I mean, they run separate schedules for each task, or run it as a single schedule, right? So we're gonna run it as a single schedule, and here is where now we set the schedule. Okay, let's go ahead and change this. So we use these recurring. So the schedule type must be recurring, so that it keeps recurring every week, every day, every month. We're going to use the daily routine backup, recurs every 1 day. That means every day it will be running. So I'm gonna set it occurs once at, so the period, the date, I mean the time when you want it to be running every day. So majority of people usually set the backups to run at night when systems are less busy. Okay, so let's maybe schedule this one to run at 9:15 p.m. Okay, let's say 9:16. Right now, according to my computer, it is 9:14. So let's go, and at 9:16, let's see if it will be able to execute. So that is it. Then click next. So here we're going to select only full backup, the first backup type. So there are a couple of things you can do with maintenance task. You can schedule check database integrity, you can shrink database, you can schedule reorganize database indexes, indices. So there are a couple of things that you can do here. You can also schedule a maintenance cleanup task. So for us, you only want to schedule a backup, full database backup. So just select that one, click next. That's okay, click next. So now our files, what we want to backup, let's just backup all the databases. We can just select specific ones. We can just do Northwind only. In case you want to backup all of them, you can just select all databases. So for us, let's go with Northwind only. Click OK. A specific databases, that is fine. Backup to disk. Okay. So under this tab destination, you're going to select where you want to have the backups. We're going to just do it in this folder again, Northwind. We can just do it in the root. No, let's do it in the folder. So back it up there, then that is it. Go ahead and click next. Finish. It's going to execute the plan, and that is it. It's complete. So if we refresh our server again, we find that now we have a maintenance plan here called Northwind Routine Backups. So you can either, for the first time, you can either run it execute by executing, and you can also modify the options that you have selected. It's taking some time, but it's up. Okay. Of course, for me everything is set okay. I'm not going to modify everything. Okay. So let's just go ahead and execute and see if our backup will be able to be performed. Right. And I think the backups I should have named according to dates, date and time. You can see our backup is already here. The first backup has been completed successful. We already have it here. Not going to backup the date. Okay. And there's some other numbers I'm not quite sure. But that's how we schedule backups within Microsoft SQL Server. Right, so let's look at something else about our users. We've already seen how we logged in with our SA user. But suppose we want to add another database user. So we go to security, logins, right click, new login. Right, so here you can choose to use Windows authentication or the SQL Server authentication. If you use the SQL Server authentication, then you need to provide a username. For example, you can create a user called Tekra, and they give it my password. Right, so you can enforce password policy, but no expiration, so we untick that one. If you want to select a default database for this user, you can select down here. It's also default language. It is English, United States. So like that. So that's our user. Gonna use SQL Server authentication. And the server roles, you can give him if it's a system admin or the other users. The other server roles. But majority of the system users are usually system admins. So under user mapping, you can also map the databases that this user can have access to manipulate and do everything. So if I select everything, that means we'll be able to access all the databases. So I'm going to give him a membership. It should be this user should be a member of the DB owner database schema. Let's just select that one and executing, done. So we should be able to have now a user called Tekla. And if you go ahead and disconnect our server and reconnect, we should be able to log in using Tekla. Enter the password, log it in. So we are logged in as Tekla currently. Right. Right. So we've been able to create databases, and now I want to show you how to create tables within Microsoft SQL Server. So let's create just a new database that we're going to use as a test. We can call it Tekla. Just call it Tekla, then click OK to be able to create a database there. So if you expand this one, we're going to get other menus here. We have database diagrams, we have tables, we have views, we have synonyms, we have programmability, service broker, storage, and security. Right, so security stores are all the users that are able to access this kind of this database, right? So under programmability, there are two key functions, menus that we're going to be looking at later in the tutorial. Key stored procedures and functions, and also database triggers probably. So, and also we also have views here. I'm gonna be creating views. And also now let's go ahead and create a table. So right click tables. We're going to look at the graphical user interface method first. Then later we're going to see how to write a script to create the table. So let's use the graphical interface first. So new table. So that where we now design our table. So suppose we had let's say our a customer table. So we'd have first thing is a ID. ID can have an int, which is a number. Assuming our IDs will be 1, 2, 3, 4, like incrementally. So allow nulls. Usually don't allow nulls for primary keys, and our ID will be the primary key. What is a primary key? A primary key is a unique identifier for every record in a table in a relational database. As we said earlier, a relational database uses tables that have relationships to represent records. So let's go ahead and right click here and set this ID as the primary key, like that. Okay, so it shows a key there, meaning it's the primary key. So again, we can say first name, right? First name will be, can give it enter of 10 characters. Maybe you can increase, or let's give it the var, which can be at least greater 50 characters. That is first, that is fine. So for first name, we can maybe allow nulls. Then let's add the last name. Same, we can use the same. And just copy paste, allow nulls. Then you can say date of birth. Here you can say date time. This one should just be date, date time. But you can say maybe record created. Maybe the user created this customer. You can say, you can still use varchar, and then we can say created date. and this one will be a date time. Okay, so you can add as many columns as you want. And again, for this primary key, I'm gonna set some option here so that it keeps incrementing, so that we don't have to input manually. So this one will be automatically generated by the database, and because it's an int, the same way like a GUID is usually can also be generated by the database. A GUID, or if you're not familiar with a GUID, if you click on new query, we say print new GUID. Print okay, we'll do that. We'll check on that. So for here, we go and select the identities specification, and we give it just double click this one to turn it to yes. So is identity yes, identity increment by 1, identity seed 1. So you set it up like that, so that it will be increasing by 1. So if you enter the first record, it will be ID 1, second record will be ID 2, third record ID 3, like that. Right, so once you're done designing your database, you go ahead and save. So then give it a name. You can call it okay, and just call it customers. Right, yes, okay, and that we'll have our customers there. So we have dbo.customers. DBO is the schema, the database schema. So dbo.customers. That's how we create our table within Microsoft SQL Server. So if you right click this database, table that you've created, and script as, and go to new query editor window, you should be able to generate for you a script of creating this database. Right, so we have it here, create table, dbo.customers, ID is int, identity 11, not null, first name varchar 50, last name DOB, date of birth, created by, and created date. So these are simple way of in case you want the script, that's how you can just use the graphical user interface to create it, and then you generate the script if you need the script for whatever reason. Right, so even if we were to do an insert now into this table, then we'd probably do just right click scripters, and you can say insert to. Okay, you can say insert to the new query editor window. So if we say insert to, then it should give us a script to insert our values. So we already have the database, and our database is selected here. So always ensure that you've selected the database you want to use here, or otherwise make sure you start with this phrase here, use Tegra. This means use this database. So insert into customers all these values. Maybe let's remove the first two. Just insert the first two. So let's remove these ones. And then now, so our values will say first name is F1. Okay, then last name after the comma. We have Dixon. For characters, always remember to, for strings, to use the single or double quotes. Moving on. And it's a comma. Okay. Actually, something here we missed that into first name. Okay, we need that bracket. So yeah, let's go ahead and execute. To execute, you can either use execute here, just click that one, or you can see the shortcut is F5, so you can click F5 on your keyboard. Let's execute this one, and one row affected. So one row has been inserted into our table. So if you go and right click again, we just write a query, select all from dbo.customers. If we execute, we get one row, which is the one that we've just inserted. So the rest are left as none. Okay. So that's how basically we insert records. But again, this one can be still done with the graphical user interface. If you say edit top 200 rows, we can insert new records using this method. So maybe we can get there a second. Maybe say David. Elvin. Can say 2010 05 5. Can leave the rest. So once you tab to the next one again, you read the it moves to a new record. So you can Daniel. You can add as many records as you want. You can say Daniel, Mary, and I can give date of birth maybe 1997 06 04. What you can do to save our records is to right click anywhere on this white space and execute SQL, or you can use the shortcut Control R. Let's go ahead and execute, and our records should be saved in the table. So if you go back to our customers table and right click and select top 1000 rows, you should be able to get more records than they were in the first time. So here we have our records that we've just added. Now we have 3 records. Right, so that's how we can graphically insert records into a database, or even using a query. You can use a query to do the insertion. So let's continue. Now let me show you how to delete a table. And the same process, just like the database, just right click the table you want to delete and click delete there. This one you can close existing connections and then go ahead and delete. So the other option would be to just use the query, the Transact-SQL method. So you're going to write a drop drop. This is the table. We say tracker. dbo dot the table name is customers. Right, drop checker is the database, and this is the schema, and this is the table. So drop we should include these if exists. Drop if exists checker .dbo.customer. So if we execute this one, okay, and correct syntax near the keyword if, can include this one like that. Okay, sorry, drop whether you are dropping table or database, the drop table, drop table if exists checker.dbo.customers. If we execute that one, should be able to. Alternative if this one is not working, just go ahead and pull the table right from there. Okay, then can execute in dbo. I don't know why it's refusing that one, but let's just remove that one. Okay, let's try to execute that again. Okay, it seems that it will work without these keywords. So you can just execute it like that. So drop table that one. So it already doesn't exist now. The same thing will apply to the database. You want to drop checker, just drag and drop it there, then change the one to database and execute using a 5 can't drop because it is currently in use. Okay, so that one is not deleting. So let's use this option now and cross connections. So this one will be able to safely delete it. But basically that is the syntax for deleting the database. Right. Let's go ahead and look at how to create views within Microsoft SQL Server. So the query is create view, just say customer view, and call it customer orders. And give it VW to differentiate. And start with VW. So create a view VW customer orders, and as select all from customers. Right. So we're going to use our novel in the database now for these exercises. Let's go ahead and select from this drop down menu here. So my computer is not responding, but after a few seconds you should be able to. Can say use model. So execute it's broken, not Okay. So command successful. So view is created. So you go to the login database under views. You should find our VW customer orders here. So the other option to create our views is you go ahead and execute this one first of all. Let's select top rows, leave an field to retrieve data for this request. Okay, let's log in using our SA. We go to another views, select 1,000 records. So we get our records there from that view. So you can modify this, can modify the view, or let's just create a new view. I want to show you how to create views without writing the scripts, and the view builder will be able to generate for you the script. So let's click on views, new view. So it will open for you the view builder where you add the tables you want to add our view. So let's have maybe orders, let's have order details, let's have products, let's have supply, okay. Suppliers, okay, let's have suppliers, and let's have customers. Let me remove shippers from here. Okay, let me just leave it again. So from all these tables, you can see it is drawing the relationships between the various tables. So all the details related to products, because there is a product ID here, which is a foreign key. Also related to orders, because we have order ID here and order ID there. Orders is related to supplier. No, not supplier. Order is related to customer, because every order has a customer ID. And then supplier, every supplier is related to products, because every product has a supply ID. Okay, so once we have this kind of relation, whenever you add the tables, you just have to confirm that the relationship is correct. So if some kind of relation is not correct, you can always select and delete, and then you can just drag. Okay, you can always create a new relation between the tables. So let's add one more table here called employees. So employees is related to the orders. So we're going to get the name of the employee who created a particular order. So let's begin with the customer. So let's pick the company name. That's the customer purchasing, and maybe the contract title. And then let's pick the product ordered. So we'll just come to products and pick the product name. Okay. Then let's pick the supplier who supplied this product. We'll pick the company name and the contract title. And then let's pick the shipping agent and the phone number, the person who is shipping the order. Okay. And then lastly, let's pick the employee first name and last name and the title, the person who created the order in the system. Okay. So with that, as you can see here, we have a query that has been generated for us, and it has a lot of inner joins, and You see all these big queries being generated for us instead of having to sit down and write such long queries. So here in this column, let's add an alias to our columns. So for the first one, we call it a supplier. Supplier name, contact title is supplier. Supplier contact title, then here we have product name, that's fine. Here we have the customer name, and customer contact title, then that we have the shipper company. We can simply call it shipping agents. Then here you can have the shipping agency contact. Then here we have the employee first name. Then you have the employee last name. Then you have the employee. Remember, an alias just gives a descriptive heading for the column that you are selecting. So that is okay now. So for us to be able to test our view, it is fine now. This one you can always decide the way you want. You can pull this one up, you can pull it down. Okay. So for us to be able to view our result and test it, you just right click and execute SQL. Okay. But you can still use the Control R shortcut. So execute, let's see if you get our records. So if the relations are correct, you should be able to return some data. Data is loading, since there's a lot of data, so it's taking a bit of the computer resources. Right, so we only got to, okay, still retrieving data. So let's give it time to retrieve all the records from the database. It's quite a number of joins in our view. And so now that we have now the select statement generated for us, if you go back to the view that we created ourselves, we can just copy paste the select statement into the select part of the view, right? And we have two records so far, so but as you can see, the records are okay. We have the supplier name, supplier contact, title, which is accounting, okay. So the records are here. So we have the customer ID, still under view. It's taking some time. So if we copy paste the query that we just generated, you can easily replace our select query in the view and then save the view. Okay. So here, so just copy the view that you just generated from the view builder and replace it here, and then execute, and we have our new updated view, because now this one is taking time to load. So I'll just go ahead and terminate this one for now. So basically that's how we create our views in Microsoft SQL Server. So I'll terminate that one for now. It's not responding. I'll go ahead and terminate this process. And then let's reopen it again. So next we're gonna be looking at other queries that we can perform on data. We're gonna be using the Northwind database for our practice, and we're going to start with we already did an insert. Don't want to recover anything. We already did an insert statement. So let's log in with the system admin. So we've already done insert statements. So we're gonna do now the update statements. We're gonna be updating our databases, our tables, I mean. So under Northwind, let's use the customers table for instance. Select a couple of rows from a table. Just right click, select top 100,000 rows. Okay. So once we know what we have in the table, then we can know what to update. For instance, we can say every country that has Mexico as the country. Okay. And set all customers that come from Mexico can set their contact to the sales representative. Okay. So let's write our query down here. So you say update just copy this. Update that the table, then set contact title is equals to, use the for strings, use the single quotation marks, then we can put this one. We can update them to have Mexico. So always remember to repeat the where clause, otherwise you're going to update the whole table. So where country is equals to Germany. Okay, we can use Germany. Okay. So just highlight it. When you have two queries within the same query window, you can always select for you to be able to execute. Alternatively, you can just select the other query and comment using this button here. Okay. With a single line comment, you can always use 2 dashes to comment the whole line. So let's go ahead and execute by pressing F5, and 11 rows affected, meaning the 11 countries that had Germany as the country. So if we uncomment this one, so 11 rows, let's confirm. If we uncomment using this button, and then add the where clause, we just copy this, and let's comment this one, execute that, where countries will get 11 customers from Germany. So then our query was correct. So that's how we update can basically update any field within, apart from the primary key, any field, any other field within the table using the update set. And of course, the where clause is very important, otherwise you're gonna mess up with your tables, right? So the next thing, let us look at aggregate functions within Microsoft SQL. So let's use a different table. You can use maybe the let's use the details table. Maybe we can get some good data. All right. So for instance, when we are selecting, let's just use our own select. I can say unit. Select unit price, quantity, and then you can say total price will be the 2 multiplied unit price times quantity. Then you can give it an alias as total price, then from selecting from all the details, right? So select unit price, quantity, unit price times quantity as total price from all the details. Okay, so if we execute this one, then we get our results there. So this times this, we get this times this, get. So our result set is correct. So let's start with the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so let's move that one. Okay, let's say unit price. So select unit price. Let's say maximum. So we have this function called max. So maximum unit price, maximum quantity, like that. If we execute this one, we get the maximum unit price is 263. The maximum quantity of that so far is 130. So we want to find the minimum. Again, just change this to minimum. So we say and give it an alias as minimum price, and this one we give it as minimum quantity. So you can always enclose it in square brackets or whenever you have more than 2 words. Like that, so that you can also use the single quotes if it's a string. So if you execute this one, you get the minimum price and minimum quantity. You can also get the average price by using the AVG. Okay, let me say this is the average price. Average price will be the summation of all the records, all the unit price divided by the number. So again, this one will be average quantity. Okay, as average quantity. Execute. So we get our average price and average quantity. So we can also use the count the number of unit price. So we can say count, use the counter function. Ideally, these maybe should be the same number. Yeah, 2155 to 2155, which ideally would be the number of records. But suppose we wanted to get the unique unit price that is not repeated, then you would use the distinct keyword. So select count distinct. Okay. So you can also select distinct for the quantity, so that you only have quantities that are not. So when you count quantities that have not been repeated, also you count the unit prices that have not been repeated. Let's go ahead and execute. So we get average price. So we do this count. Right, you can just move that now. Okay, so this would be the count of the distinct unit price. This would be the count of the distinct quantities ordered by customers. So that's how we use the aggregate functions. Right. So next we look at the comparison operators. Right. So if we say select R, select R. So you can say select R from order details. Can join with an inner join products. So you can call this one order, OD. You can call it OD. And this one called PR. When you say on OD.product ID is equals to PR.product ID. Right. So you can select PR dot product name and say PR dot product name, PR dot. So that's how you use our joins. We are new to joins. So you can say PR dot quantity per unit, product, units in stock. Okay, let's say units in stock. Then we get OD dot unit price. OD dot unit price. Okay. So if we execute this one, we get our product, units in stock, and the unit price. Okay. So you can still go ahead and get our supply ID. So if we can still do inner join products on this, then we can say on P not really. Okay, let's leave it for that for now. That's how we use inner joins. That's how we use inner joins, and also the aggregate functions. If, now we check out the comparison. We wanted to do a comparison, then you can say after we do this, then we can say where units in stock. Units in stock comes from PR. PR dot units in stock is not. This one means is not equal to 0. Okay, so these are, when you put these two signs, it means are not equal. Okay, so if we execute, we only get the records where units in stock is not equal to 0. Okay, so if you are to choose something like maybe 22 is not equal to 22, then you should not get any record where units in stock is 22. Now you see you can get a 0. Okay, so if again we said units in stock is equals to 0, okay, and execute, so that gives us all the products for units in stock is 0 plus the unit prices. So this means these are supposed to be reordered maybe. So these kind of queries are they're useful when doing reports, when generating your reports. Okay, so that's how that's equals and not. You can also still use a greater than. Okay, or greater than or equal to 0. That means you'll get all the records. As long as it is greater than or equal to 0, so we'll still have 0 and we'll have other records. If we say less than, then we should not get any records, I presume. So less, okay, we get because of the equal sign. We remove the equal sign, so less than 0, we don't have any. Okay, so those are the common comparison operators in Microsoft SQL Server. The other function we're going to look at is the union, how to use the union function. So suppose we want to select all countries, okay, both from the customers table and the suppliers table. So we select customers, select 1,000 rows, and also select from suppliers. You find there's a common field called country. So you have countries in suppliers, and we have countries in customer. So you want to select all the countries. So what we do is select, so let's write our select statement, select, okay, you can say country, from customers, okay, start from customer. You can still put our warehouse where contact title is purchasing manager, contact equals to purchasing manager. So this one should return select country from customers where contact title equals purchasing manager. Could we comment this one and execute, get all. So it seems we don't have any. The contact is cost purchasing manager. Okay, let's get rid of this first of all. So we want to select from also the suppliers. So this is where you say union and enter, then select country. Remember union, you have to select the same columns. Okay, from suppliers. So let's look at a few more operators. Let's look at the intersect. Intersect operator. This returns a combination of two queries and returns only values that are common for the two select statements. So for instance, if we select country from customers, Then we say intersect and select country from suppliers. Execute this one. So this one returns only countries that are common between, they appear between in both tables, in both the customers and in both the suppliers. Right. That's the intersect, how we use the intersect clause. Next, let's look at how we use the in operator. In is used to select to compare to a list of items. For instance, we say select all from customers their country in, can put a bracket and we put a list here and say okay, you can see Germany. Okay. You can say England. And you can say USA. And it should be single quotes, not double. So if you execute it, it has selected all from customers or country in either of these three countries. So if you check at the column country, you find that it's only the three countries that have been selected. Right. So you can have either a list like that, or you can even use a select query. Would do in, then you put some query there. Select country from, can get the country column from supplier, so that you only get customers who have suppliers in their countries. So select a country from suppliers. You can include our warehouse, can still do one. Let's check the columns that we have. So countries, we already have the countries. You can say where only the countries where the contact title is a sales representative. Right, where contact title. So the results that are returned from here, now that is the list that will be checked against these where clause. So where country is equals to where country in this list that will be returned by this subquery. Okay, so you go ahead and execute it, so then we get a result set here. All right, so only the countries are within suppliers who have contact title as sales representative. So if you take this one and execute, you get only USA, UK, Italy, Sweden, Australia, and France. So these are the countries that we've used here. So it's just the same as now replacing this select query here with how we had done it before. You can put it like that. Then you say USA, comma, UK, comma, Italy, Sweden, Australia, so our subquery is equivalent to just putting the list here, but because we didn't have the list, we had to get the list using a subquery. Right? So a subquery is a query within another select statement. All right, or a query within a query. If we execute this one, you should get the same list. So only the country that you've selected there will be returned. Right. Then next we check at the not operator. The not mainly is used to negate the query that we have written. So it negates the result set. So for instance, if we include not here, it means select all from customers where country not in among these. So you should return all other customers from other countries apart from the ones that you have listed here. If we execute this one, then we realize that none of these countries that appear in the list is in our result set, in our query here. Right. So again, the same thing will apply if we had our subquery like that. So we still use not in whatever results are returned in the subquery. Alright, so we execute to get the same thing. So only the countries that have been returned by this subquery, I mean the countries that are not in the result set that has been returned here. Those are the results that will be used for the first select statement. So how subqueries work, we have the inner query and the outer query. The inner query is the subquery, the query inside, and then we have the outer query, which is the main query. So the inner query gets executed first, that is the subquery, then returns the results to the main query, which then gets executed. Right? Like in our case, we have to first get the list of countries from the suppliers where contact title is sales representative. And when we have that list, then now we execute now select all from customers where country not in now that list that we get. Right, so that's how we use the in operator. Right. So next, let's look at how I use the like operator. So we select all from customers where contact name, then we say like let's say Maria. So we put these percentage marks on both sides so that we're able to only search records that have Maria anywhere in the contact name. Right. If you want to say maybe if it has M anywhere in the name, so any word that has M, right? So if we do that, say M, and this should return only names that are starting with M and then any other characters. Again, if we put this, we start with this one. It means any any record that has a contact name that ends with M. We execute, you only get one here, right? So that's how we use the like operator to search. Right. Next, we look at how we use the null operators. So for instance, we can search select all from customers where contact name can say is null, right? If we execute, there is no contact name. We can negate this statement and say where contact name is not null, right? So if it's not null, then should return all the records. So maybe let's use a different, maybe you can use facts where facts. Yeah, facts is null. Let's see there. Yeah, we get records. So any record that has facts null, then that one is returned. When we say where facts is not null, and execute to get all the records where facts is not null. So that's how we use the null and is not null operators. Right. So next, let's look at how we use the distinct keyword. Suppose we want to get all the countries from the customers table. We select the countries column from customers. So we execute to get all the customers, and we get that they are around 91 record customers. If we want to select only unique customers, like for example, we have USA repeated several times. We have Germany repeated, France repeated. So if you want to get only the unique number, the unique country, then we use the distinct keyword. So distinct function, so we enclose a column within. So select distinct country from customers. So you see we get only 21 countries. We can still use the same and now count. Remember we used the word function count before. So if you count country without the distinct, we get 91. So we add the distinct function, execute to get 21. So you see the difference between the two, right? So we maybe do a bigger query, select out from countries. You can say sales representative contact title. Contact title is equals to sales representative. So then you can go ahead and use the group by and group by country. That's your result. Sorry. Okay, so let's do a different query. Let's use a different table. Maybe we use the products table. Let's select. Unit price, units, products. Right. So if we add up multiply the two, maybe to get the total cost of stock. Add a third column here and say that one multiplied by that one. Then I can give it an alias as can call it stock cost total. So we execute our query, we have it that, then we can decide now that from products can put an inner join suppliers so that we're able to select other fields. Let's can call it SP, and this one we give it an alias of PR. So that this one is PR dot PR dot. Then you also add now from suppliers on PR dot supply ID plus SP dot supply ID. So here we can add another column SP dot company name as supplier name. So if we execute our query, another one maybe country SP dot country. We can decide now to group by country. So we're able to group by country, by company name, by unit price, and the units in stock. So if you look at the first thing is country by country, so you get all the products from Australia, from suppliers who are in Australia, then Brazil, then Canada, Denmark. You can see how they are arranged by country. The next goes to by supplier. So within Australia, they're organized by supplier. That is the first supplier, second supplier, like that. So within Canada, we see we have 2 suppliers. Right, then we go to the unit price, the units in stock, then the stock total. So that's how I use the group by clause. Right. So guys, this marks the end of the first. Okay. So guys, this marks the end of the ultimate Microsoft SQL Server Beginners tutorial. We've been able to cover a lot of functions for a beginner, and we'll have a part 2. We'll have a part 2 where we'll cover even more advanced functions within Microsoft SQL. We'll cover things like stored procedures. We'll cover things like functions and indices. And so make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you continue getting more and more educating content. And we continue growing our community. Make sure you leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about this kind of content. And also share with your platforms and communities so that we grow this community and continue learning together. Let's meet in the next video.